Most of these internet guru real estate types on YouTube are lying to you. This video is probably going to piss some people off, but I don't really care. It needs to be said. My name's David. In 2024, I did over $14 million of fix and flip real estate deals with my brother. We took his business from doing $9 million in 2023 to doing over $14 million in 2024. And I learned some things along the way, and it's not the kind of stuff that you see on HGTV. So just to give you some background, prior to joining my brother, I've been in real estate for 23 years, since I was 15. And the 5 years leading up to partnering up with my brother, I was doing ground up new construction, land development projects, anywhere from single family homes to single family subdivisions, where we would buy the raw land, develop the lots, build the homes, and apartment complexes and multiple townhouse projects. So, a couple of my takeaways after seeing both sides, after seeing the real estate development side where you have to have a high level of patience, but your profits are better, and the fix and flip where you get quick dopamine hits and you're just dealing with lower profits. I guess number one would be the profit margins. So, one of the most alarming things about being in the fix and flip space is you can work really hard and you can grind on that hamster wheel. You can get that deal, buy the house, put the money into it, turn around, sell it. But then when you look at your profit margins, you made 30, 40, even $60,000 on it, which is fine, whatever. But then when you look at what your overhead costs were and what you spent on marketing dollars, you might be only making 5 to 10% on a deal. So the slim margins is a real negative, in my opinion, when it comes to fix and flip revenue, when it comes to fix and flip deals. My second point would be the funding component. It's very difficult to get funding in fix and flip. And if you're listening to this, you might think, well, no, it's not. I've got 5 hard money guys that I can contact. And I would agree with you, but the problem is hard money is very expensive. They charge you anywhere from 1 point to 3 points on the closing. They're going to charge you anywhere from 12 to 18% on the money. And the banks really don't want to work with you, even if you have a track record and you can prove that you have a viable company. For instance, when I joined my brother, he was already doing a significant volume. I mean, $9 million in flipping is pretty up there. I looked at the statistics. The average fix and flipper makes about $86,000 a year. So he's in the 1% of the 1%. And one of the first things I did was I started going to lending institutions, showing the lending institutions the business that we had, showing them the procedures we had, and just trying to get them to facilitate construction loans where they would buy the property and give us the money to rehab it. And conventional banks just don't want anything to do with these type of projects. The inverse of that is with ground up construction. It's actually quite easy to get banks involved in your project, assuming you have the right deals, assuming your team is correct. Banks are going to give you the money and they want to be a long-term partner because you're a better partner than, say, Harry homeowner who comes in, does one home purchase, and then they don't get any more business from him. The next thing would be predictability. So one of the main issues inside of this fix and flip ecosystem is your income does this, because 1 month you might have 4 deals that are closing because you purchase some stuff 6 months ahead of time, and then your projects are wrapping up. So you get 4 closings in 1 month. But then 2 months later, you have a completely dry pipeline. There's nothing coming in. You have no deal inventory that you're drawing from. And so your revenue and therefore your net income is doing that all year long. It's just the lack of predictability is very difficult to work with. And for the amount of volume that we did, we had a pretty sizable organization with pretty high overhead costs because of a phenomenal team, great people who are working for us, but you get a lot of fluctuation in the deal flow because you can only spend so much money in marketing dollars, and it doesn't always come back. You don't always see an immediate return. The inverse of that is when you're doing new construction, the deals that you're involved in are much more long-term. They're not quick dopamine hits. You have projects that might take anywhere from 6 months to even get a permit, all the way up to 2 years to get a permit. But then once you start the project, you have a predictable timeline where you can line out projects, maybe a year, 2 years, running out the project to know exactly what the expectations are coming off back, to know exactly what the expectations are and what the revenue is that you can expect to come back into the business. The next lesson would be scalability. So in order to do those numbers that we did, we had to put in place really good systems and processes. And operationally, I think we did a fantastic job. We found the right people, we created the right SOPs, we set people in place, and really gave people the opportunity to run with their position and thrive inside of our organization. But the scalability ends where the deal flow stops, meaning you can only scale to the extent that you can bring new deals into the table. And sometimes, like I said, if you're spending a bunch of marketing dollars and there's nothing new coming in, you have a cap on your ability to scale. That's why a lot of these guys like Pace Morby and Ryan Pineda are building these communities, because in the communities you have new deal flow coming into the ecosystem and you're not paying 50, 100, $200,000 a month in advertising and marketing. When you're doing ground up development, you are a coach, you are a quarterback. You're not handling every single piece. So you're managing a general contractor. You might be managing an architect. You may be even general contracting one of your own projects, but you have an ability to scale because you're working with a higher end clientele as far as teammates. Contractors are more professional in new construction. You have your sales agent, you can afford to pay them more because your margins are wider. And so you're just able to build a better team of people to manage underneath it, which gives you increased ability to scale a ground up development or a new construction business that you don't necessarily have inside of a fix and flip. Additionally, every single family home that you're building, if you have the right business model, you're making a couple $100,000 on one sale. The average flip that we did would make $40,000 on average. And some of them made $120,000, some of them made no money, but our average was $40,000. So think about what I just said. If you structure the correct new construction project, you can make a couple hundred grand, $200,000 very easily. So that means we have to do 4.5 deals in the fix and flip business to make the same profit as one new construction home sale. The scalability of that means you got to do 4 times the amount of business. It doesn't make any sense. The math doesn't math. The next point is brand and legacy. I had a client on the phone last week, and his biggest frustration, he's doing, I think he said 37 homes per year. That's pretty decent. I think he said he made $1 million last year. But even though he's making $1 million, he is concerned about the long-term legacy and the long-term impact of what he's doing, because every time you close a deal, you got to jump right back on the hamster wheel and start working on the next project, which typically means running around, sending out mailers, cold calling, cold outreach, chasing down lists. And there's no legacy, there's no long-term benefit. It's a flywheel that never gets any momentum, because as soon as you push one deal off the books, you got to bring the next deal in. Whereas with development projects, if you're doing a single family home, yes, there's no long-term legacy there, but that gives you an entry point into the ground up development world. And then you might be doing a 20 unit townhouse complex or a 150 unit apartment complex or even a 30 unit apartment complex, but you're building long-term value, you're building long-term legacy. A flipper is basically trading time for cash. In my experience, most flippers just have a very high paying job, whereas a developer is building projects that have long-term equity and long-term scalability. You could build an apartment complex that's worth, $4 million today, and by the time the project's done, it might be worth 5.5, 6 million. And you can either hold on to that asset long term because it's new, it's fresh, you're going to get at least 10 good years out of it, or you turn around and you sell that asset. But either way, you're building something of value. The last point I would make is that there's a ceiling on it. If you're in the fix and flip industry and you're making 150,000 or 200,000 or even 300,000 and you're feeling frustrated, it's not because you're doing something wrong. It's because you've reached the natural progression and came to the end of the road. It's just the reality of that world. Sooner or later, the scalability fizzles out. Not, for a variety of reasons that I just went through, but not least of which is the red ocean that everybody's competing in. So if you're feeling frustrated, if you're trying to figure out what the heck am I doing wrong, why can't I make more money? It's just the reality of the business. It does have a cap on it. That's why at a certain point, people either have to transition into something else or just completely switch industries. This channel is designed to create videos around people looking to go from fix and flip to transition into ground up development. Because of my unique experience of having a foot in both worlds, I can speak directly to both the pain points in fix and flip and the pain points in new construction. And there is pain in both of those arenas. However, I would submit to you that the pain in new construction is much more predictable and it pays a lot more money than the pain in fix and flip, which is really just a hamster wheel that just keeps grinding. And I know a lot of guys who have been grinding for 10, 20, 30 years, and they're still operating on this high paid job, trying to figure out how they're going to move into something else. So if you like this type of content, if you would like to make that transition, subscribe to this channel and I'll keep putting out more videos, some with higher levels of specificity that'll really get into the weeds of what it takes to build a $10 million project, what it takes to build a $1 million project, what it takes to build one single family home. I hope this was helpful. I'll see you on the next one.